Hit the button.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, the role of cost systems in the age of digital transformation. We're super excited to have a great panel here today. I'm Stacy, and I am your sort of producer behind the scenes. As soon as the conversation gets going, I'm going to pop off here, but I will be managing the Q&A and chat areas. So if you have any questions for our panelists at any time in the conversation, go ahead and pop your questions into there, and we will make sure that we get to them throughout the conversation. So enjoy the conversation. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Adrian Rohofsky. Adrian, take it from here.
Thank you, Stacy, and welcome everybody to this exciting webinar, the role of cost systems in the age of digital transformation. What a title, wow, right? So before we get started talking about this topic, I want to briefly introduce the panel of today's webinar. So my name is Adrian Rohofsky. I'm part of the solution and sales team at 3C Software. And I bring over 15 plus years in the product costing and profitability space of experience with me in the industry as well as software space. And I'm excited to talk today to the finance team at Shaw. At this point, Jason, you want to start by just briefly introducing yourself?
Sure. I'm Jason Cookston. I've been with Shaw for 15 years. I'm the director of soft surface accounting. I've been using Impact for almost 10 years now.
Awesome. Brandy?
Yes, my name is Brandy Tunnell. I work in the corporate manufacturing accounting area. I'm an accounting manager. I've worked for Shaw for about 7 years now. A few of those were working for Jason, where he taught me everything I know.
Great.
I'm John Lacaze, also in the manufacturing accounting, working for Jason and working with Impact now for 3 years. And I'm still in the stage of Jason teaching me things he knows.
Okay, that's awesome. That's great, guys. Appreciate it. So let's jump right into the first topic. We're going to be talking today about the topic number one is the changing role of cost systems at Shaw. So the trend that we have seen across industry has been that a cost system is not just serving anymore the finance teams of an organization, but it more organically serves across an entire organization, providing some conformity in data, and really spreading the love of all this intelligence and insights that's out there today. What has the journey been for Shaw Industries during and post implementation of the cost system Impact ECS when we talk about changing the role of cost system?
Right. So I know for us, the journey started to replace many cost systems, and we think the number is somewhere between 11 and 13 different platforms that were supporting costs throughout Shaw. And
Wow.
we were able to implement Impact in 2011 is when we started, and we kind of did it similar to the slides organized. So we started with an accounting function, trying to do our absorption and usage calculations, and we kind of piggybacked that back on the existing system that was there. And then we moved into operations next and started costing our yarn with the same group of consultants that helped us with accounting. And then we used different people to build backing and hard surfaces, and then eventually carpet. And I guess, many people may not even know who Shaw is. So before we go further, I mean, Shaw is a manufacturing flooring company. And so we make all kinds of flooring between, anything from a hard surface product all the way to a carpet. So just so everybody knows, I guess, who we are. Probably should have started there. But we did. We started with yarn, moved into backing, hard surface, carpet. So now all of our costing is inside the Impact ECS system.
Right. And give us a little bit of an idea how, what kind of timing and how did this organic spread of different use cases in different departments How did this come all about at Shaw?
It took us a few years, I guess, to really roll the tool out. But I think now I see it on the screen here that leadership is one of the bullet items there. And so now leadership, our accounting team is working with leadership. We develop the costs, and we bring the cost to leadership and let them know exactly what the cost is. And it just helps us make a lot better decisions for which products to sell, margins, different things like that. And then the last item there, logistics and supply chain, we're using it. We do have some imported products from various countries around the world. And so we're using it to calculate essentially add-on costs to get the good here. And it adds on costs for ocean and freight and getting things from different countries into the Savannah port, and then from the Savannah port to various distribution centers around the United States.
Yeah, that's an amazing use case right there. And I think from our previous comment, that just happened in the last couple of years, right? When you guys started coming up with that use case.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah. When you guys transition from these multiple cost systems to one, you mentioned now leadership is looking at them, and there had to be some type of cultural change for the leadership now really have this trust in all these numbers that are being calculated, right? Can you talk? Right. A lot of people talk about this, but what we see in other companies is that this notion of trusting the numbers. When you have all these, you said 13 different cost systems, that's not always the easiest thing.
Right.
Right. So it becomes very, very valuable having one cost system across these areas to then really say, hey, that we trust those numbers, we understand how they calculate it, and we can derive more data-driven decisions out of it. Right.
Sure. I think. I don't know. We're probably not unique in the fact that we have specific product experts, but we also had existing systems to build our calculations off of, and
right.
Kind of. I think one of the themes in the project was kind of removing the box.
Yep.
Because we had people in the company that had all this knowledge in their head, and a lot of them were close to retiring.
Yep.
And we actually had several people retire throughout the course of the project. And so to take information out of one system or out of someone's head and get it into Impact where I feel like business users really can thrive was very important, because then people like Brandy and John, myself, other people on our team, IS groups that help support us, we all know how the calculations work, and we can go in and try to figure those out ourselves, and not have that one key person in the company that knows everything about costing.
Right. So it's really a systemization of the rules of your business, and the business logic that you have that you need in place,
right,
to accurately calculate costs and calculate profitability.
Well, right. And it just gets it into a system that I feel like is so user friendly. Anyone can go read a calculation with very little training.
Right.
And
that's
sorry. One thing that has really helped the leadership with this system has been the capability to do a what if scenario, so they could run a few different scenarios to see what big picture, large data, what this would look like. So that's really helped drive those decisions.
Yeah, we definitely have that. Some of the models have what if scenarios, and some of them have a full-on draft to where a plant can put in different machines or different speeds or a variety of different scenarios, different budgets, to see a lot of different scenarios to see how the cost would be impacted. That's a great point.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and those what-if simulations, especially during time as we live in right now, have become more and more important, right? And it's almost like you don't have a choice but to have a dynamic costing system where you can, run simulations of trying to create these scenarios. What is this going to mean for my business and looking forward, right? Not just looking backwards.
Right. Brandy and I just got off of a call, and we definitely need a lot of what if scenarios for the current environment. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's awesome. So you guys mentioned about changing technologies, changing processes, and obviously with our macroeconomical factors ever changing, such as right now with commodity prices, raw material prices, you name it. I mean, this is stuff that you cannot control, right? So all these kind of macroeconomical factors, they consistently change, and technology and processes really have to try to stay on their toes, keeping up the pace with those macroeconomical factors ever changing, right? So at Shaw Industries, what kind of initiatives have you guys been taking on to lead this pace of automation systems when it comes to costing and profitability?
Yeah, we kind of have a few tools that we use, right? So we're on PeopleSoft Financials. We refer to it as kind of the three-legged stool. Impact is obviously one of the legs, and then TM1 or IBM's Planning Analytics. Those have been, for the last 10 years, and some of those tools more, those have been the three legs. And like I said, you've got disappearing processes there. Well, we have disappeared a lot of products and a lot of tools, and trying to slim down the toolboxes we use. But in saying that, we're consistently and constantly looking for new tools to use to, get better, become more dynamic, and I guess kind of going to that middle block there. The bots are coming. This is all Brandy. And so this may be a fourth leg, so maybe we'll have a more stable stool. So this is something I'll let her talk about. She's worked a lot with robotics and RPA.
Yeah, so we at Shaw are on our second year of RPA implementation using Automation Anywhere software. I'm part of a pilot group within that mechanism of business users. So I'm not in IT, I'm an accountant. So it's a pilot program to see how we can, knowing our systems, knowing our people, knowing what we need, get that to the user quicker. So my main focus has been to automate mundane, repetitive tasks that people don't enjoy doing. They can make mistakes, they can take time. So I've really been focusing on those time-saving initiatives so that our people are able to do more analytic-based things with their time. And one example that I have is using Impact's scheduling tool. We have some data pulled out of Impact, put it on a server, and I have an Automation Anywhere bot that goes and grabs that data out of that Excel sheet and populates a different system that we use for imaging as we do our costing analysis packets. So it's an interface between Impact and this barcode printing software that takes out the need to repeat typing in the month, the year, the costing item ID, the things that we need for that imaging process. So it's been very helpful as a go-between between systems to keep us from duplicating effort and reducing errors.
Phenomenal use case.
What was the time savings on that, Brandy? Did we come up with? I know you did.
Yes. Let me.
It's a significant time savings, and I know some of that's hard to to visualize maybe over a webinar?
Yes, so we calculated 217 hours of savings a year, and that was on
Wow.
4 different salaried associates.
And if
So-
I can make a drawback to topic one, Brandy, talking about dropping data out of the costing system for another system to use, going from all those multiple systems down to the one makes it easier to pull data out of to use in these other, applications.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point. And a little bit referring back to topic one, but I want to focus on this topic on the right, custom versus configurable. Those old legacy costing systems were obviously, some of them were some custom built applications by Shaw, right? Because that's how a lot of companies used to do it. I mean, that's the way to do it, because we know exactly what we're getting and we know exactly how to do it. And so now with moving away from these kind of custom own developed application towards a configurable platform such as Impact ECS, I mean, that makes it a lot easier to use and maintain for people, right? Would you guys agree with that?
There's no doubt, right? We've been, I would consider us a custom software shop. I mean, what do you think, Brandy?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah. So we've been big in the past, and I shared something yesterday, and our existing cost system was built by an associate left, and so it was so customized. We were having to pay someone that wasn't even there to a program language that few people can still read today. So it definitely, we've definitely experienced exactly what you're talking about. So until we got over to Impact, we were still having to pay someone that wasn't even a Shaw employee anymore.
Right. Yeah. And not even to mention the security and confidentiality aspects that come with it, right?
Especially costing.
Yeah, especially costing. I mean, we have a lot of customers where their bill of materials and their way of calculating things, I mean, that's their trade secret. That's their competitive advantage towards other customers, right?
Yep.
That's a big factor of remaining a secure, safe, confidential environment to work in, right? Every day for people.
Right. And we definitely have those. We definitely have those for sure.
Yeah. No, that's a great story, and I appreciate you sharing that with us, Jason.
Adrian, before you move on to the next topic, I do have a question from the audience, if we can take a pause for a second. Nicholas was asking a little bit, Nicholas was asking for the panel, and I'll toss it up to you guys. Anyone can take it. Talking about the incrementally, what do you think that you're getting above and beyond your ERP system with using a tool like Impact for product costing?
Brandy, do you want to take we can all take a stab maybe, but sure. Brandy, do you want to take a stab?
Sure. Impact has offered specific customizations that the existing systems that we had did not have. So our existing systems were actual live data, and Impact has turned out to be a very useful tool in the what if scenarios, and a way to version control and keep all of our data in one place for that type of functionality.
Yeah. I think too, sometimes it comes down to, we talked about customizable, right, Adrian? So how much money do you want to spend? So, I mean, do you want to spend millions of dollars on some SAP customizable add-in that's not going to work in the end, and then you're going to wind up turning back to Impact anyway because it's not going to work and you spent all this cash? And that may not be exactly what you're going for, but Impact is just so diverse and robust and customizable. I've said many times, you can make it be a SQL query read writer. You can make it be a calculator if you wanted it to. You could make it be a reporting engine. There's so many different uses for the tool. A lot of times, my boss Brent and I, we've struggled with identifying, should we use Impact or not, because it can almost always do it. It can almost always solve the problem. So I think some of those are reasons, but we do use PeopleSoft's inventory module for one of our systems, but it's only one. And I just think Impact is so much more diverse than the canned thing that comes out of the box of most of these systems. You may be able to get your ERP to work, but you may not, and you may spend a lot of money along the way.
Hey, John, can you talk a little about Brandy kind of said it already. It's the difference between working in a transactional system versus an analytical system, right? Can you talk a little bit towards that differentiator?
Yeah. With the analytical side, we also have, the ability to run those, what if scenarios, and, that may not be capable of running in an ERP and stuff like that. And, to get, like Jason said, you can use it as a SQL engine as well. So if we're trying to just, pull data out, we'll jump on that, and I'll use Impact as a tool to get my hands on a bunch of data in order to put out to the masses or for me to use myself. So.
Well, I think sometimes too in an ERP, which table is the data stored in, and which series of tables, because there could be many that you're having to join together. Whereas in Impact, if you know what you're doing, you can write the data and get it in one table.
Right.
And for querying, we're able to interface with our old ancient mainframe system and pull the data in through querying tools in Impact, so we can see that data in the format we want to see it.
Right.
And use that to bump up against our costing data, so we can use it as a tool to bridge the gap between other systems as well.
That's right.
That's a great point. Yeah.
We'll use the data links for 3C to pull in PeopleSoft data, to pull in
sales data warehouse, many sources, and we're pulling those into Impact and using the SQL side of Impact just to maybe build a report or to do something else downstream in another system.
And it actually covers another topic that's coming up, but it's all about getting the right information in the right format to the right people, then to make the right decision. Right? It might sound simple, but what you guys just described is exactly that, right? Stacy, any more questions to this topic too before we move to topic 3?
Yeah, we do have a little bit of a follow-up question for Nicholas. I'm not sure if we're able to promote him into the conversation or not, but I'm going to try to summarize a little bit about what he's asking. Adrian, do you see a way to do that? Can we, from the attendee panel, invite Nicholas into the call?
Sure.
I want to do his question justice. It's a little long, and I want to make sure that I don't take it out of context. Hey, Nicholas, are you with us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
We sure can. Why don't you go ahead and ask your question?
I'm very sorry for that. I didn't mean to interrupt. And you guys are
no, that's why we do this live.
Awesome.
We make it fun.
Yeah, no, my question kind of gets back to this is I've developed a theory, at least that I'm saying, is you get your standard ERP, and at the end of the day, I think a standard ERP normally does costing pretty well on the variable side. I think there's traceability because of the data that comes in. Where I'm seeing great failure or potentially a significant incremental impact from Impact, for us at least, is the idea that you get to take those fixed costs that are below the line, tie them into other systems with other potential drivers or data sources to get a far better idea and or allocation of the fixed cost that you're bearing in what's driving those around beyond what a normal ERP would do. And I think that's in my mind the way I'm thinking about the incremental value of this, and I'm trying to pressure test that theory off of some folks.
Yeah. I would like, John, you should be smiling here. I would like to tell you that we are a great source of splitting fixed and variable costs. But between our divisions, we struggle, I think, to define what is truly fixed and what is variable. But the answer, can it do it? Absolutely. If you know what is fixed and what is variable, I mean, it absolutely could do it. There's no doubt. We just really struggle to determine what is fixed and what is variable.
I get that, but we've got some fixed costs in SG&A, for example, that would normally be well below the operating line, where realistically customers are driving those costs for us in terms of their use, and understanding that allocation to either to the customer or to the products that are utilizing them gives you more valuable information in terms of decision making. You know, when I think about any normal system I've seen out there, you don't really have that ability. You're not going to tie your ERP to your CRM. CRM's really got the data necessary to know whether or not those interactions are occurring and how long they are, how much of that they're actually tying up. So what I'm imagining Impact is kind of a middle space where I can tie into other systems and really effectively get a clearer picture. That's for me, that's kind of at the core of what makes this thing potentially very impactful.
Well said.
Yeah, it can. I would think it could definitely do that. And
okay, so that sounds right.
if you,
I'll take it from there.
If you want to reach out to any of us, we can definitely get you our contact info, and kind of, I'd be glad to, even depending on what industry you're in, to show you kind of how we use the tool.
That would be awesome. I know Jill is Guardian Industries is where I work, and Jill Wiles, who's been kind of our point person with Impact, has had a lot of these conversations up till now, and so I'm working with her to try and make sure we move this forward.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nicholas, for joining in.
Thank you for joining.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right, so that was awesome. Let's move on to topic number 3, data, right? So we discussed earlier the notion of spreading the love of these insights and intelligence across an organization, and with data amounts and systems consistently increasing, getting bigger, it all comes down to, getting the right insights to the right people, right? So we touched a little bit before we went to this live method just a second ago, but how do you guys at Shaw try to eliminate some of these data silos across departments and put the right information to the right people's hands to then really make some data-driven decisions in operations, in supply chain, in logistics, right? In manufacturing, finance, right?
What do you think, Randy?
Who owns it? It's nice, having Impact and kind of being that one-stop shop. They've got to go through, one of us or somebody on our team to get their hands on it, and being as sensitive as costing information. Having that one system as Impact really helps to maintain that user list a lot on that first point.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about this concept of, moving away from just calculating some numbers, but now freeing up some time to do more analytical capabilities of actually analyzing the data, telling a story of a variance. Hey, when we produced this product last week compared to this week, what has happened between, right? That has it actually helped you guys free up some time for more analytical variance analysis and really creating these visualizations and storytelling functionalities around it?
I think so. And kind of talking from the accounting piece, just some of the things that we used to do to some of the things we do now. Before Impact, the system we were on, I mean, I would be embarrassed to probably say its name, but the system we were on, I mean, it required, you would print this piece of paper, and then you would key this piece of paper into this system, and then you would key it into a Microsoft Excel sheet in the end, and it's taking you hours to close a plant. And then now it's more, we've built this in Impact, this interface, and we will copy and paste data, or we will use a data link to pull data into, depending on where it's stored. So if it's something in PeopleSoft, we may pull it directly in. If not, worst case scenario, we're copying, pasting from Excel or a Google Sheet or something like that. And it's a save and a recalculate. So time is I feel like way more efficiently used than it was previously. So that's kind of one piece. And then now also having the SQL engine on the front, it's really typically, if you know the table, a quick query that we can either send to someone data, or they can access a form and pull the data themselves.
Yeah, I have an example this week where I had an industrial engineer after some data, and they were hunting around for it, and within a matter of minutes, I was able to go query the data out of Impact, enable that user to run that query themselves with some prompts, and now they're off to the races, pulling all that data and making those decisions on the usage information and variance like you were referring to.
And we're still using something that was written in 2011, 2012 that will push a report from Impact to a plant's reports drive. And, we just push a button, and then it shows up for them in their reports folder, and they can go out there and do whatever they want with it. So if we had an instance where we didn't want to give a user Impact, we can click a button and it'll drop a PDF or an Excel file directly to them. No problem.
And then they're able to use their knowledge base to do more analysis on the data than we would know to do, because we're not there boots on the ground. They're in the middle of it. So they can take what we're able to formulate and take it on the next step.
Right. Yeah, you're providing them the insights for them to use their know-how and knowledge, then to combine the two of these best worlds, right? Yeah. Now that's a great use case. I really like the example John mentioned about the industrial engineer, because that happens all the time, right? People say, hey, why are we experiencing so much usage variances for this product compared to other products, right? I mean, that's a daily question you might be asked, and it's not always as that easy to answer it, right? Especially when you have the data that is scattered or disconnected, or have it in disparate systems, or sometimes even multiple data points that have different outcomes. Right?
Yeah, or even the data integrity, knowing that it's going to be good, valuable information that's actionable as well.
Yeah, no, that's phenomenal. All right, any questions before we move on, Stacy?
No more questions on this topic.
Okay.
So let's go on to topic 4.
All right, topic number 4. So finance as a business partner. Wow, that sounds really great, right? But I think we all would agree that it's easier said than done. And finance teams are striving to be a business partner. I think we all agree with that. But still have certain tasks and exercises that need to be done from a financial point of view that fits some of these other quadrants that we see here, right? So having said that, with having a state-of-the-art costing system in place and all these business processes around it, how would you describe, where do you guys spend your time on these quadrants right now, and where you did before Impact, and where are you trying to spend most of your time now? Right, going from this reactive way of making decisions more to a proactive way of making decisions.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think just when you hear the word accountant, you're thinking of, I don't know, maybe the scorekeeper may not come to mind, but definitely record keeper, right? And I've heard my boss many times in meetings say, you know, we need to just not be the scorekeeper, you know, we need to be the business partner. And so I feel like those two blocks especially make so much sense because we're trying to not just be a scorekeeper, we're trying to actively help the business. And specifically for us, since we're in manufacturing accounting, help the plants make decisions. So we're trying to arm them with the most information that they can have and help, whether that's build something in impact for them, or build something that they can run themselves, to be a great business partner. What do you guys think?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, in terms of time, we're definitely trying to whittle down the amount of time that we keep in that scorekeeping position, into that business partner. And, you know, I find us more and more, because of the tools that we have at our disposal, going into more of the business partner and caretaker role there as well.
And just one small example is, like Jason said before, how long it used to take us to close the books at the end of the month. That took all our staff multiple weeks. So that was time that they were just looking backwards, just wrapping up the month. That now we've transitioned to, it takes us less than a week. And so all of that additional time is now forward looking. It's now giving trends to the business. It's now making suggestions and letting them know what we see, and not as much just recording what had happened in the past.
Yeah, that
Absolutely. That's a great example, Brenda. Yeah.
We actually haven't talked about this, but she's exactly right. So when I kind of started, it was probably a 7 business day close. So it was a Monday through Friday, and then Monday, Tuesday of the next week, somewhere in there. And then now for our group, we're typically finished around 4 days, and then allocating the 5th day. So we have, and that is not a lie. That's not a sales pitch. I mean, that is the truth. We have literally shaved 2 to 3 days off closing since we went on Impact. And I don't think it's just Impact. I mean, we have great people. We've developed better processes around the board, whether that's robotics through RPA, but Impact is definitely a big driver in that, because we've moved from a lot of manual keying to, like I said, worst case scenario, a copy and a paste and a save and a recalc. So we've shaved days since in the last 10 years off of our closing process.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great example. And I think we all agree that all of these quadrants have a role in the finance organization, right? There's no such thing as, hey, you know, there's still things that need to be done, even though they might have a scorekeeper attitude to it, right? Right. But at the end of the day, we're all trying to automate maybe some of these things, right? As Brandy was mentioning, with the robotics going on and with the bots going on, right? So maybe what can we automate to free up some more time? There still need to be done, right? But still, how can we spend more time on strengthening those links between organizations, maybe between finance and operations, right? The example that John said about the industrial engineer, I mean, that is what we need to want to happen, this kind of collaboration between departments. So I think that's a great example.
Well, we've gone, we're still keeping the score, and we're keeping it, but we're only trying to keep it for 4 or 5 days a month, and then transition to being a business partner, or transition to make everything better, faster, smarter for our team. So it's one of those two things, and you know, people are in different boats, but better, faster, smarter, and then business partner. That's where we're at.
Right. Absolutely. Another question I wrote down for you guys. So you guys mentioned a little bit what the system has done for you. Can you talk a little bit about your experience with the 3C software team that you guys been working on? What has that experience kind of been for helping you becoming this kind of business partner, right? From implementation to all over these years being part of this whole Impact ECS community, right? Can you guys talk and elaborate on that a little bit?
I think we can. I mean, I know I can. John, do you have anything you want to add? John's the kind of the newest, so.
Yeah, I was going to say I wasn't here during the implementation, so I can't speak to that. But in terms of if there's any kind of new features or just being a part of that community, and if I have a question, it's not, oh, let me wait around until somebody gets back to me. I usually have a response within, if it's over an email, within an hour or two. It's really impressive, the amount of the community there, and the support that we're given as well from the 3C team.
Yeah. Brandy, do you have anything?
I was also not there during the implementation, but I still hear great stories and see pictures and hear about how much fun and hair pulling, but all of it together that they did actually have.
Sure. And I was there, so I think they're telling me that I'm getting old, which is sadly the case. But John's right. I mean, whether it's a software development question issue, we get fast response times, even if it's just an email, and then it may proceed to a phone call after that. We get fast times there. We've had great relationships with all the consultants we've worked with, and built, I think, lasting a meaningful partnership with most of those people, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If I could just interject really quick, Jason, and everyone, but you were there during the implementation, so it's probably an appropriate question for you. But we talk about the relationship from sort of a technology support perspective, but what about from a best practices or best ways to do costing or thinking through processes? I know that was probably a big part of the beginning of this, right? You sort of had a bunch of different ways that you were doing it. What was that process like? Maybe you can share a little bit with really pulling it all together into one cohesive kind of a costing process, if you will. Sure.
Some of that does take time, because I mean, when I started the project, I didn't know how to write a SQL query or, code much more than a simple Excel macro. So some of it was a learning experience for me. And then you learn the tool Impact, and literally my boss and I sat with two people from 3C for 8 or 9 months in a conference room together, and we just worked mainly because we were trying to learn the tool. And so, we did things early on, and we learned better processes kind of as we went. The tool itself kept getting better, to upgrades as we went, more features, more functionality. So that was improving as we were going along. We're on our second upgrade now of the tool. Like I said, support is always there. But we were definitely learning early on kind of how to use the tool, and we've learned our own, I feel like, best practices along the way, and we've picked up something from all of the consultants that we've worked with that I still use frequently when building a new model. Does that answer your question, Stacy? You got a follow-up?
No, that absolutely answers my question.
Okay.
Thanks, Jason.
I appreciate it. All right, that brings us to the last topic, number 5. When taking over this role of a business partner, right? The tendency seems to be going towards being asked more complex questions, right? It's not just about, it's not good enough anymore to just answer it, okay, well, you just overspent $30,000 on electricity, right? It's now more relevant to say, okay, well, we had this kind of change of a line, change of product, or we, needed to make up for something. That's where, therefore, we used more electricity. You name it, right? It's just an example. But so having these more complex questions related to this cost and profitability, how has Impact ECS enabled you guys not just report to report, okay, because we've always done it this way, just created reports, but more delivering really these meaningful, deeper insights, specifically for these, specifically for the industrial engineer, for example, right? Specifically for the leadership team, right? So, would you agree it's a tendency of moving away report just to report, of really becoming a partner of delivering meaningful insights, right?
I can take the first stab at that. I know for us, this is going to sound insane, but for us, when we first started, it took us longer than a quarter to cost the quarter. So I don't know how that's even possible, but when we flow charted it out, it actually took us 17 weeks or so to cost the quarter, which is crazy. And so now we've at least gotten that down into a manageable, meaningful time, to where if we need to recalc all of the costs, we can do it in hours if we need to. So if we have a change, we can literally start the process and run it from start to finish. And there's a lot of processes along the way to get that new answer. And so then we can give an answer to our executive team much, much more quickly than we could before. So I know that's one way. And our previous, I don't know how many weeks it was more than a quarter costing method is now much more manageable, and in a window of maybe, say, 4 or 5 weeks from start to finish. And that's if every cost changes along the way. So
right.
you can get answers much faster.
And it's a good point, Jason, because what happens in nowadays world, the expectation from a leadership team towards you is, well, you have all these tools. I want to do it just like I do it on my phone, right? I want to click three things on my phone, and then I want the information faster, more accurate, and give me everything you need in one screen, right? So that's kind of the expectation today, and it's just not reality a lot of times, because the questions are being so complex,
sure.
Right? You're having to go all through all these processes. I mean, that's a cultural thing as well, right? Educating people, say, hey, it's just if you have a good costing system, it will enable you to make decisions more data driven in a more accurate way, and more conformity around how it's calculated, et cetera, et cetera. It's a very, very good point, Jason. Yeah.
Well, and you can't afford to be wrong. So,
yeah. What's the cost of not costing right?
It's high.
Yeah.
I won't be on your next webinar. Brandy, do you have anything to add on that? Or John?
Yeah, I would say, in terms of insight delivery methods, just the kind of scope of information that you can get to, all the way down to an extremely small granular level, or very, very specific, all the way, for a specific user, or, a specific customer, internal customer of ours, all the way up to that more macro, hey, big idea kind of thing, one page, let me see the end effect kind of thing. So that's pretty, useful for us as well.
And the capability to start from that high level and drill down and look at your data and see this does not look right, this trend is off, drill down a level, and just keep doing that as needed. And I do see that we're getting asked more of those types of questions, not just here is your cost sheet, here is your report. We're drilling down into machines, we're drilling down into all kinds of things that I don't understand. But
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a great point, right? It's what is the source of the problem? We can't just say, that's the variance, but we have to tell the story. Well, how did it occur? Why did it occur? And how are we going to ensure not to make the same mistakes again?
Absolutely.
Right. This is the we talk about this a lot at 3C Software, is having a system in place like Impact ECS helps you create this, what we call a cost culture throughout this organization, right? Speaking the language of the industrial engineer, right? Speaking the language of the leadership, drilling down from top to the bottom, right? That makes a big difference in how people perceive their behavior towards cost and really embody this cost culture in the organization.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, that was our last topic. What I would like to do is open up for Nick or anybody else to ask some questions, type it in the chat, or I'm happy to invite you guys live. Stacy, I see Stacy joined us via camera.
Hi, I'm back. To wrap up. We don't have any questions in the chat panel right now, but while we're here on this screen, I want to just quickly say thanks to our guests today, and they've all agreed to speak to you on their own. So that means a lot to us, because we would, we're nothing without our customers. So we're really excited that they are willing to connect with you outside of this session to share their experiences with you. So hit them up on LinkedIn or send an email. And I'm sure Adrian would love to hear from all of you. So we have all of his contact information there. And if you guys want other phone numbers or things like that, I'm sure he'd be available at those too. But as we wrap up, I just want to ask if any of the folks from the Shaw team, if you have any other final closing thoughts that you want to share about anything, Impact, how your experience has been with us, one thing that you'd love to leave.
How fun the user conference is, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, whenever we're able to travel again, we can't wait to see all you lovely people in person for sure at our user events. But, in the meantime, we're engaging on social, so definitely connect with us and all that stuff. But I'll stop here and say any closing thoughts from the team before we wrap up today.
For me, it's been a journey of many years now using the tool, and the tool keeps getting better and better. The people side working with 3C is always great, but the tool is improving too. And it's constantly getting better. And one thing I really like, especially at the user conference and other times, we're able to give feedback that sees its way into the tool. Mm-hmm. And that is something that's unique, and I would say rare. But if I give a developer at 3C a good idea, sometimes it sees its way into the tool, and that's nice to see, because then your thoughts and opinions are being taken seriously.
Right, absolutely. We want to win our customers' business every day, and one way that you do that is making sure that we're filling your needs and we're giving you tools that can actually help you be the business partner, right? Spend more of your time doing meaningful things and not so much doing copy paste or tasks that are no fun and don't add a lot of value. So we absolutely take that seriously and always invite customer feedback on the product, on what we can do better from a support perspective as well as a technology perspective. And you guys teach us a lot too. We learn so much from our customers and your unique experiences, everything that you're going through as a customer, and us helping you figure out how to translate that into a tool is super valuable for us. It's what allows us to be able to do this a little better. So with that, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap up. Adrian, you got any final thoughts you want to share with the audience before we get out of here?
I think Nick has one last question. I'm just seeing it. I'm gonna I'm going to unmute him again and bring him in.
Yes, come on, Nick, join us.
Yeah, guys, the other
Hey,
thing
Nick.
that came up, hi, a couple slides back on like what I kind of captured as your phase 4, stage 4, the piece with the 4 square that went into what you spend your time doing.
Mhm.
Governance, lessons learned. I mean, I really feel like one of our major challenges as we start to go into being a more digital organization is this. And when I think about my time, I spend a lot of time either being a caretaker or establishing the caretaking right now, and thinking about how to do that, because it's a cost that you have to take on to manage data. Generally, it's one people don't like to think about. So lessons learned in terms of establishing that as you went, experiences, good, bad. Any tips?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm not understanding the question as much. You said
How did you get your governance established? And did you do that pre-system, or as the system was in place, you started to put controls around it?
so. You're just talking about just strictly the data governance.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, since it's costing data, it doesn't leave the system. Is really the main thing, as far as we're not really sending it anywhere else. And I don't know if I'm exactly answering your question, but
What you may be telling me I'm hearing is that you didn't have much to do there because of where it was already at. And
it was coming from so many other systems, because we replaced so many. We probably didn't have a lot to do. Brandy, do you have anything that you would want to add?
We created the different user groups where we could group like functionalities together and
Yeah.
easily toggle different roles back and forth and know from one month to another if someone's role changed. We could, us as business users, not even IT, change that access on a real-time basis. And so if we knew someone got moved to a different role and we needed to cut their access, we could do that immediately.
Did you
Yeah.
have
using
any
those different
changes
roles.
in roles to data ownership as you put this in? And then another reason I ask that is we're coming from a business that's been very separated. So a lot of our data was owned out in our operating facilities. And being fair, through some of this process, we're pulling some of that data back, or at least the ownership of some of that data back, to a more central level, so that we can get some gains of efficiency across the different operating facilities. I don't know if you guys had any kind of similar experience with that, but establishing governance around that then is proving to be just a challenge in terms of making sure people understand the value of it.
Yeah, I think we talked about this a little bit when we said, really when we talk about bill of materials, recipes of products, right? I mean, that is highly confidential information. And I mean, when Shaw went from 13 different cost systems, probably slightly of a data structure in each system, right? I mean, just the benefit of having one common platform to house this in the same format, not having to govern 13 different systems, but one system,
Right.
An enterprise class system with security, controls, auditable things around tracking. I mean, tracking activities, changes, etc. around it. I mean, that is a big factor. And for a lot of people, their bill of materials and recipes, that contributes to their competitive advantage compared to their competitors,
Mm-hmm.
right?
That's right.
And having
one thing, Nick, I would say is that with the way Impact is built, you can secure things at a folder level, and this is what Brandy was kind of getting at. So if you don't want someone to even see the folder, you can do that. But I'll say this, from the SQL side of things, which for us, we're on SQL Server, so that's where all the data is stored. If you don't allow the users to access the database, I mean, they would have no idea which table the data was stored in. I only know which table the data is stored in from 10 years of doing it. So if you're not allowing them to get into a calculation or a script, they're not going to figure out even where the data is stored to be able to use it unless you allow them to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think our goal is not to keep that a mystery, but to make sure that those who have the ability to change it is controlled.
That's
So
right.
Yeah.
readability versus the ownership of it and the ability to make modifications is part of the process of establishment. And I look at, you guys said you had 13 systems, you went to one. Was it one group already established that owned all the information in those 13 for your bill of materials? Or was that
I
separate groups
wouldn't.
coming to one?
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. I would
Yeah.
think it would be separate coming to one. And I don't think we've had any issues really at all with that. Now, we've started to have some issue with people from other groups wanting to use our data and put it in different systems. But that's typically, just a hard no.
And why is your answer right now a hard no on that?
I mean, do you want to allow your costing data to get out?
If
So
depending, again, it goes dependent on who in the organization. I go to transparency with the individuals in my organization.
yeah,
If I know that the data is controlled, i.e. they can't modify it and I understand their use of it.
well, once it leaves, it's gone. So it doesn't, once you open that door, you don't get to close it again. And so for us, it's been kind of a no. Now we give people access to the system, right? But I don't necessarily want to open a door to another system to allow them to come get the data and do with it what they want.
But yeah,
I want it to be more controlled than that.
Yeah, the modification aspect of it is something we would stay away from. That's where things get to be more dangerous.
Yep.
That's right. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. No, appreciate it, Nick.
Very easy.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, appreciate the input, Nick, for sure. And please, Nick or anybody else that's still at the webinar right now, please feel free to contact me, contact any of the Shaw guys. We're happy to discuss it further. As you guys know, we love talking about cost. So hit us up, challenge us. I promise you, we're eager to learn and share our experiences from the past.
Absolutely. Thanks everybody for joining today. Y'all have a great afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.